When you hear the word rhetoric, what do you think of? Is it something good or bad, or are you just unfamiliar with the term? Reactions are often mixed. John Locke, for instance, once called rhetoric that powerful instrument of error and deceit. Or maybe you've heard the word contrasted with substance, truthfulness, or effectiveness in words like empty rhetoric. Or you've seen it paired with crooked politics, shady lawyers, linguistic trickery, and empty gestures. So what is rhetoric really? Let's unpack the term and see what it actually means. According to the rhetorician Andre Lunsford, rhetoric is the art, practice, and study of all communication. To study rhetoric is to study how to communicate, how to do it effectively, and how to make it sound nice. But when we say all communication, how broad is that really? It means that signs are rhetoric. Gestures are rhetoric. Symbols are rhetoric. Memes and humor are rhetoric. Protests are rhetoric. And so are facts and figures. But there's something else we need to consider. Since Greek and Roman philosophers came up with all this stuff, they added one more thing: virtue. The Roman author Quintilian, for instance, called rhetoric a good person speaking well. Being a good person, speaking well, however, requires being around other humans. That is, rhetoric creates an ethical relationship. Whenever you want to communicate, for instance, you start with an author who has something to say. Now, you don't just scream your words into a void. You need to have an audience to hear and to have that act of speech aimed towards. And finally, you need a message that makes that connection between the two, one that's structured in a way that the audience will respond to it. Rhetoricians call this the rhetorical triangle, and the ways we influence other people through rhetoric will always focus on the points of this three-way relationship. But the rhetorical triangle isn't a one-way street. It's a dialogue. Those messages go both ways, whether your audience responds directly or not. To be a good rhetorician, you need to understand what makes your audience receptive to your message, their hopes, their fears, their biases, their previous experience or prior knowledge, and use that to craft your response. But hold on. Remember that not every relationship is good for you. That applies to rhetorical relationships too. And there's a reason for this. If you get rid of the good person in Quintilian's definition of rhetoric, you keep the power of persuasion, but with no intent to do good. And this leads to some awful social effects, things like trolling, fake news, emotional manipulation, abuse, demagoguery. You know, about 95% of the internet. So, when you're thinking about what kind of relationship to have in your rhetoric, it's not enough to ask, how do I make this convincing? You also have to ask yourself, what kind of person do I want to be? When rhetoric creates a good relationship between people, it has wonderful effects. It draws the audience towards the author's position rather than manipulates them. It clarifies the truth and enlightens and empowers. It helps focus on understanding and progress between both sides. This is the sign of a good relationship. But like any bad faith relationship, bad rhetorical relationships can lead to great harm. They manipulate a person, usually against their own best interests, cover up the truth through lying, obscuring, misdirection, and misunderstanding, and they focus instead on winning at any cost rather than any sort of mutual benefit between both sides. So why is having both an effective and an ethical relationship with rhetoric so darn important? It literally has the power to determine your reality. No, seriously, think about it. Every time the president goes on television and speaks, the stock market moves accordingly. Whether or not you think that this action is free speech or civil disorder is going to change the police response. And whether or not you can get this guy to wear a mask is probably going to depend on convincing him it's in his own self-interest. So when you study rhetoric as a college student, what are your goals? Here are a few ways to think through that question. First of all, you have to learn how to listen carefully. Rhetoric is a dialogue, and nothing changes unless both sides are actually listening to what the other is saying. You also have to learn how to evaluate various arguments, especially your own. Communication's a give and take, ideally with both sides revising their arguments. You also have to learn to find the most effective and responsible way to engage in communication by using all the tools of rhetoric to enact change. In an academic setting, that means you also need to learn how to perform that act of speaking well, as Quintilian put it, and that means learning how to write well. In a composition classroom, for instance, that means focusing on effective writing practices like drafting, editing, and revising. It also means that in an academic setting, you have to learn to research well, too. The genre of academic writing is heavily focused on having conversations with other experts and supporting your own ideas with research. And finally, you need to learn how to package your own thoughts in the best medium. In the ancient world, that medium of choice was oratory. But in the digital age, your choices could be anywhere from print graphics to videos to TikTok. Being a good rhetorician also means understanding genre. That is, the unwritten rules about how to structure your writing depending on the different situations that you find yourself in. So that's the basics of the goals of learning ethical rhetoric, not just speaking well or getting your way, but basically effective, mutual, and beneficial relationships through communication. And we'll talk about that some more in future videos.